to do it. But it seems like today we need to sleep. No, correction. We didn't sleep that much last night, so we might have to pull a somewhat kind of recharge. By the way, we literally can only just do this until we wake up. We are kind of in a stationary moment, and also the drive here was so dangerous. Yeah, the drive here was pretty dangerous. So we kind of have to do this until it's awake. We'll talk later once we wake up properly. We're not really fully awake yet. Soon. My ears can actually hear stuff. Yeah, we need to wake up. Yeah, it looks like Golden Hour is actually not that bad. When I actually observed the place, it's not even that bad. Looks like our chest things will be ready to go. Hmm. The water's done. We're actually just gonna start. We'll just start. We'll just start things early then. Sorry, like 2 minutes earlier than usual. I think we're awake now, but still, that was pretty bad of us. It's actually still quite warm for us. Okay, the only problem is that I was gonna go stretch. It's a bit annoying. Kind of have to avoid people right now. It's definitely annoying though. Kind of do need to stretch though. I think this might be the first time we have to abort. Like, we actually might have to seriously abort this today. Like, this might seriously be the first time we have to abort the mission. Usually we don't abort things. I was really close to aborting things, but it seems like we're fine for now. We skipped a lot of stuff. We also gotta, like, do the water as well and things. I think we're awake now, but it took us a while. We spent like 20 minutes just awake, no sleeping. And then when we were doing this, there was like a there was like a person to our 5 o'clock, 1700. I think we're on like what are we exactly on? Yeah, so this morning was sleepy drive, and then what? That's about it. No, Golden Hour is not like bad, but mm, not really sure how to explain it. To be honest. Anyways, what is it to do today? I guess there's actually some. First of all, the Arc Aquatica series is going to be uploaded and edited differently. Today we're going to do Earthlog. Okay, no, today is chest, Alpha Theory Regime, food, edit, and then food. No, and then I'm going to dip some pull-ups, then food. We've also got DGI editing as well. And we've also got Overwatch to edit. And that should be about it for now. I didn't even get a chance to I didn't even get a chance to like what is it? Make a story video yesterday. Wasn't in the right environment, but it's okay. It'll be fine. Probably give you a story video today. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's nothing really else left to say. Alright, we should. I think I could talk now, but golden hours obviously looking a lot better. Obviously, we have, you know, arised from our slumbered state, and no one's around us now. It's pretty good. I guess to finish things up, matter of fact, I think we did cables a lot recently. We should just use the machine and yeah, put an efficiency on it. I'm not gonna drink all the water right now because I think currently our system in the body is still digesting from the previous day, no, from Saturday. So it's like, yeah. Oh, so yeah, this morning is one. The cardio was a bit off. The cardio was slower because we were like basically half asleep, and then our bench was like close, and that's about it, honestly. We'll drink the water later. I honestly can't drink it right now. I don't think there's anything else to really. There's nothing really else to say. All I know is that we have just editing to do, right? Basically, yeah. I'm actually gonna be reducing. I'm gonna be reducing the cracked aisles. No, no, not cracked aisles. I'll be reducing the. What is it? Editing is gonna be slightly different. I'm actually gonna turn off the mic so it's gonna basically just a lot of editing to do. All right. I appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Yeah. Should probably sleep earlier, but I guess we just do a lot of editing. What I was gonna say? I think I'll explain my editing. I'll explain my editing stuff today later during the story time, right? Bit. Sorry, I didn't say bit. Hold on. You guys, the camera wasn't even on me. Pretty much, yeah. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time, right?
Alright, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome. This is probably going to be one of the first variety streams I've done in a while. It's been a while. Pretty much how these go is that instead of me recording these sections one by one, I'm going to have it live just for everyone to watch, right? Because isn't it like the Truman Show logic? Technically. Yeah. So we'll continue from Earth Log. So obviously the first thing we're going to do today is finish off this 3 true deep horror stories. Now, the first one, if we remembered correctly, was some guy went into an abandoned cabin and someone threw a Molotov and he died. It is what it is, GG. And then the next one was about 2 dudes exploring a abandoned fire watch tower and then they didn't camp the ladder. And since today Earthlog was a bit quiet, we might as well finish off today's one. And then we're probably going to hop onto Overwatch. I'm thinking about Overwatch. I mean, we could also do like Ark, I guess. I'm thinking we should start uploading multiple series. Because now that we're doing variety stream instead of doing a single thing, I won't just be getting normal Ark. It'll be more about me. I'm not making sense, am I? Whatever. Alright, let's just go to the first story and then we'll get to it, yeah? It's a little warm up. Story 3 by Jay. Let's go, lock in.
I go camping alone a few times a year. I've been doing it since I was in my 20s, and at this point, I'm in my late 30s, so
Damn.
close to 15 years of solo trips at this point. I know the risks, which is why I carry a rifle.
Oh, okay.
This happened about 2 years ago in the Daniel Boone National Forest in
So
Eastern...
this guy's like, he's like, what, 20-something years old. He's been camping for 15 years plus as an adult. And he brings a rifle with him. Okay, this sounds all good to me now, right? So the only thing that's going to trouble him is probably some kind of creature.
in Kentucky. It's a massive stretch of forest, over 700,000 acres, and if you know where to go, you can hike for days without seeing another person. I had a rough stretch of work and my head wasn't in a great place, and I felt like I just needed a few days away from everything. I drove out on a Thursday morning. I parked at a trailhead off a Forest Service road and started hiking. The plan was simple: 3 nights in the backcountry. That was pretty much it. I had my tent, my pack, enough food and water for 4 days, and my 308 bolt action that I always bring on solo trips. The first day was exactly what I needed. I covered about 7 miles before finding a flat spot near a creek bed that looked like a good place to camp. I set up my tent, gathered some wood, and had a fire going by the time the sun started going down.
That sounds chill.
I cooked some food, drank a beer, and sat by the fire until it burned down to embers. The whole time, I didn't see a single person. I fell asleep around 10. I woke up at some point in the middle of the night. I'm not sure what woke me. It was more like my brain just switched on for no reason, the way it does sometimes when you're sleeping somewhere unfamiliar. I lay there for a minute and stared at the ceiling of my tent, but as my eyes adjusted, I noticed something. There was a faint orangey glow coming through the walls of my tent. I unzipped the tent flap and looked out. Maybe 200 yards away, through the trees, there was a fire. Not a big one, it was about the size of a campfire, but it was definitely there. It was flickering, which is how I knew it was a fire. I watched it for a few minutes, waiting to hear talking or something. I wanted to confirm it wasn't some random forest fire, but after a while of looking at it, I couldn't see or hear anything beyond the fire. I watched it a little while longer just to see if it would grow out of control, but it didn't. I figured it was another camper set up nearby that I just hadn't noticed during the day. It wasn't impossible, especially since I had gone to sleep relatively early. I figured whoever it was had gone to sleep and left their fire going, which is irresponsible but not uncommon. I watched it for about 5 more minutes, and then zipped my tent back up and went to sleep.
Sounds normal,
It
right?
didn't bother me too much. When I woke up the next morning, the fire was the first thing I thought about. Not because it had scared me, but because I was curious. I wanted to see who else was out there, maybe say hi, but mostly to satisfy my curiosity. I packed up my campsite and hiked in the direction where the fire had been. It took me about 10 minutes to reach the area. I was pretty confident I had the right spot. There was a natural clearing that lined up with the angle I'd been looking from. But when I got there, I stopped. There was no fire pit, nor was there a ring of stones or a pile of ash or scorched ground, charred wood, nothing. The ground was completely undisturbed. I walked the whole clearing, checking for any sign that someone had been there, but there was no signs of life whatsoever.
Probably went to the wrong spot. Maybe the guy woke up earlier than you. Something like that.
The area was pristine. I stood there for a while, genuinely confused. I was certain I'd seen a fire. It had been a campfire burning clearly for at least 5 minutes while I watched it, and yet the ground where it should have been looked like no one had set foot there in months. I considered the possibility that I had the wrong spot. But there wasn't another clearing anywhere near the right distance or direction.
Spot. You're tripping.
There wasn't much I could do beyond that, though, so I just moved on. I still had 2 more nights planned, and I wasn't about to cut my trip short over something silly like that. I hiked for most of the day. The terrain changed as I moved deeper into the forest. The creek bed fell away behind me, and the ground started climbing. By mid-afternoon, I was in a denser, older section of the forest where the trees were taller and the canopy was thick enough to block out most of the sky. It was quieter in there, which was nice. I found a good campsite around 4. That evening was
what are you even doing camping anyways? You just like walk around for the entire day and then just chill and then sleep? Is that... I don't know.
I doused my fire a little after 9 and turned in for the night. I don't know what time it was when the sound woke me up, but it was loud enough to pull me out of a dead sleep. I woke up to this distant, enormous cracking sound, like a thick branch being snapped in half, except it kept going. It was violent, and it lasted for maybe 3 or 4 seconds. At the tail end of it, there was a deep, resonant thud that I could quite literally feel in the ground beneath me. I instantly knew what it was. A tree had fallen somewhere deeper in the woods, or at the very least, a very large branch. If you've ever heard the sound of a tree falling before, which I do understand is kind of a rare occurrence, it's amazing and terrifying at the same time. It didn't scare me per se, but the deafening force and scale of it gave me this crazy adrenaline rush. I lay there in my sleeping bag, trying to figure out what had just caused it. The more I thought about it, the less sense it made. It wasn't storming, and there was barely any wind. There was nothing
Must have been the wind, right? What else can you say about it?
I could think of that would have brought a tree down on a night like this. But there was also nothing I could do. I couldn't fall asleep at that point either. My heart was still racing, and the adrenaline had me awake, so I just kind of closed my eyes and waited for it to wear off. But then, not 10 minutes later, it happened again. Only this time, it was much louder. That same gruesome crackling sound, followed by a crash of branches and a deafening thud. But this one was close. Not right on top of me, but close enough that the sound was almost disorienting, and it came from a completely different direction than the first one.
Trees did.
The first tree had fallen somewhere to the south, and the second one was to my northwest. I sat up immediately. Now I was actually scared.
What, the
Two
tree's
trees
dying?
falling on the same night in two different parts of the forest with no wind and no storm. That was inconceivable.
Might be the trees did. Maybe the beaver. Might be a beaver. Might be a termite. Something. I don't know. Wouldn't you? I mean, you spend so long like walking around. Wouldn't you like at least scan the trees, see if they're right? No. I don't know. I don't know my camping stuff. But what else would cause a tree to fall, right? Either the tree's already dead, someone cut it down, but if someone was cutting it down, you would hear them cutting it down. You know what I mean? Like, there's not really much about it, right? You see, there's no wind. Earthquake, mini earth. I don't even know. What would you do in that situation? It is what it is, right? You really can't do much about that. It's just trees falling down. No.
I kept trying to come up with an explanation that made sense. The most logical thought was that the first one had caused some kind of chain reaction, but that hypothesis didn't account for the fact that the trees fell in completely different parts of the forest.
Same trees though, right? Same trees, part of the forest. Old trees dying.
Whatever brought down the first tree had nothing to do with the second one. They were two different events. But that was even more inconceivable. I was sitting there processing all of this when I heard something new. Something that took my fear from a medium 5 to a resounding 10. It was this low and continuous rumbling sound that I can only describe as a cross between a groan and a growl. Like a person clearing their throat, except it didn't stop. It wasn't an animal sound I recognized. I've heard bears, I've heard elk, I've heard bobcats. This wasn't any of those. It sounded like something was making the noise on purpose, and it went on for what felt like a full minute without any break or variation. I did the only thing I could think to do. I grabbed my rifle, chambered around as quietly as I could, and aimed it at the tent flap. At that point, I was full on panicking. I must have sat like that for 20 minutes. The sound eventually tapered off. It didn't stop abruptly, it kind of faded out, like whatever was making it had moved further away. And just like that, the forest was quiet again. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I don't think I would have been able to if I tried. It was the worst night of my life. As soon as I saw daylight, I got out of the tent. I packed up as quickly as possible.
I understand. If you have a bolt action rifle, what is the point of camping the tent? I mean, if you have a shotgun, sure, camping it would be good, but if you got a sniper, wouldn't? I don't know.
Still spooked and extremely unsettled despite being able to see. Once everything was in my pack, I started walking in the direction of the second tree, the louder and closer one. I needed to see it, if only to confirm that I hadn't imagined the whole thing. I had my rifle ready in my hands, so I found the tree after about 10 minutes. The thing was massive, and its trunk was lying at an angle across a shallow slope. Broken branches and debris were scattered all around it, so it was real. I really couldn't believe it. I'd been trying to convince myself I had just imagined everything from the night before, but there it was. I needed to keep investigating. I wouldn't have been satisfied leaving without knowing what had caused the fall. I walked over the stump, which was about 3 feet high. The wood where it had broken was pale and fresh, but the break wasn't clean. It wasn't the kind of jagged, splintered fracture you get from wind stress or root failure. The wood around the break point had been torn apart in a way that I had never seen before. Parts of the stump looked like they'd been gouged. I really don't know how else to describe it.
Beaver.
There were long, irregular grooves running through the wood at different angles.
Beaver.
And it looked like some of them were up to an inch deep, at least.
Must have been a beaver.
The wood genuinely looked like it had been stripped and chewed rather than cut or snapped.
Literally
The more I
beaver.
looked, the more I noticed. Some of the bark around the base had been peeled away in long strips, and the exposed wood underneath had that same gouged, chewed up look.
Beaver?
I can't pretend I knew what I was looking at, because I didn't. I'd seen beaver damage before, and this was not that.
How do you know?
Beavers leave clean cuts. I'd seen woodpecker damage, and this wasn't that either. This was aggressive, messy, and covered way too much surface area to be any animal I could think of. The tree
Pokemon.
hadn't fallen because it was dead or because the wind knocked it over. Something had worked on that trunk until it came down. And
Must have been a Pokemon, man. What can you say?
suddenly, I felt this really nasty feeling in my gut. I needed to leave. I stopped examining the tree and started backing away, but as I was turning to leave, something near one of the tree branches caught my eye. There was a small cluster of items sitting on the ground. If it weren't for the fact that they looked man-made, I wouldn't have even bothered checking them out. As soon as I saw what they were, I lost my shit. It was a blue bandana and a carabiner, and they were both my items. I instantly started digging through my pack and confirmed those two items were missing. In that moment, I grabbed my stuff, shoved it in my backpack, and ran. I didn't know if running was the right decision, if that would have attracted attention to me.
Probably would
but
have.
I did anyway. I just needed to get out of those woods. I got tired after a while under the weight of all my stuff, but I moved.
Plot twist. He did say that he drank beer. He must have like drank beer and just started going ham, right? Probably got drunk and then just went, I don't know what's up with him.
Moved as fast as I could. The hike back took me most of the day, and the entire time I felt like I was being stalked or watched. I felt like something was going to jump out from somewhere any second. I kept my rifle in my hands the entire time. I made it back to my car around 3 in the afternoon. I drove out of there so fast, despite my exhaustion. The first thing I did when I got to a safe distance away was call the police. I don't think they took me very seriously,
What
but
the
I
police
didn't
gonna
care. I also knew there probably wasn't much they could do,
What they
but
gonna
I
do?
didn't care about that either. I was pretty messed up for days afterward. None of it made any sense whatsoever. What I couldn't get over was the fact that my stuff had been rummaged through. Something had either stalked me through the woods, or knew where I was the entire time. That unexplainable fire from the first night must have had something to do with it. There's no way that was a coincidence. And those trees, I still have no explanation for what could have cut them down. I genuinely
What would you do in a situation? Don't know what you can do in a situation. Honestly, it sounds like don't drink beer in a forest. That's kind of my conclusion right there. Just don't drink, because he did say that he did say he was drinking beer, so something like that. Oh, that story was kind of boring. I'm actually yawning from that. What's the next story? 3 true backyard horror stories. Man, these backyard horror stories are probably gonna be so boring as well. I bet they're all because the houses are like structured in a way where you could just walk into the backyard without looking through a gate. Like a lot of people's houses in these horror stories, right? Either their backyard's in the woods or their backyard is open to the entire public. So if someone walked in front of your house, they could literally just walk around your house and they're in the backyard all of a sudden, right? There's no gate blocking them. There's no fences. And then the other horror story backyards are like literally just a forest where someone from the forest can just walk into your backyard and it's over. Why don't we do one story over then? Why not?
Burning, tingling, numb, aching.
Shut up. Oh, it's 2 days fresh. It's fresh. We'll go one of these stories and then we're gonna go into like maybe Overwatch or something. We'll see how it goes. Alright, story 1, let's go, lock in. Mr. Nightmare by Chris T. Alright, lock in. Let's see, let's analyze this.
I'm the middle sibling of 3. I have 2 brothers. They both grew up as scouts. My older brother made it to Eagle Scout. My little brother quit some time in Boy Scouts. But for whatever reason, my parents never forced me to become a scout when I was a kid. Which is weird, because I remember always being really jealous of my older brother Scott when my mom would bring me along to the Pinewood Derby contests and celebrations and such. But the thing that I was always the most jealous that I missed out on were the campouts. When the troops would go out into the wilderness and camp out for a whole weekend. I went along for the drive once or twice, and I saw them all setting up, doing campfires and such, but being younger and also not part of the troop, I don't think I was allowed to stay, so I'd go home with my parents. My jealousy of these campouts was mainly towards my older brother because I was growing up watching him prepare for these camping trips. Before every trip, he'd be given a tent to take home and practice setting up in the backyard. Even though I was only like 7 or 8, I remember so clearly how eager I was when I hatched the idea to do a little backyard camping. Basically, we set up the tent in the backyard and sleep in it overnight. To my little mind, that was the most exciting idea ever.
That sounds
Also-
chill, no? That sounds nice. Context though, if you're in a backyard of a whole bunch of walls, no one can just walk into your backyard. Your backyard is like, you know, it's like enclosed, then that sounds cool. But if your backyard is like wide open, you might as well just camp in the sidewalk, right? That's how stupid it sounds if your backyard's that insecure, right? If your backyard's not secured, then don't do this. If your backyard's secured, do this.
Our backyard wasn't really a traditional backyard. Our childhood house was in a very spacious neighborhood where yards just kind of all meshed together, and there weren't many fences, more so large patches of trees and brush separating yards, which added to the camping feel. Our backyard was also huge, and we had a fire pit, so our parents played along and set up the fire pit in our backyard for us so we could get the full camping experience. My little brother roasted marshmallows with us too.
It sounds
But
chill
our
though
parents
still.
weren't going to let him sleep in the tent. He was only like 4 at the time, and it wasn't a good idea.
And you're
And
7?
no, he wasn't a scout yet, obviously. He was 4. After it got a little late, our parents brought him in and told us it was time to start getting ready for sleep. At this time in my life, the Game Boy SP was the handheld console. So after getting into our sleeping bags, Scott and I whipped out our Game Boys
Oh,
and
it's two
played our
brothers.
respective games.
Chill.
I was playing Super Mario Bros. 2, a game I was obsessed with yet could never beat as a child. After getting a little more tired though, I turned to my side and tried to sleep. But I remember not being able to sleep. Like, I was tired, but restless. Maybe because I'd never slept in a sleeping bag before, and quite frankly, it wasn't comfortable. A lot of time passed, and I mean a lot, before I finally nodded off. And then, I woke up probably confused about where I was at first, not recognizing my surroundings. I remember looking around the dark tent, and then noticing something. Scott was gone. His sleeping bag was empty. The tent zipper was closed though. He must have went inside because he couldn't sleep.
Bro went inside and abandoned his brother. What a...
I was suddenly too scared to be in the tent alone, so I got
fair
up
enough.
and unzipped the tent. But before crawling out, I did a little innocent peek outside simply because I was too scared to run out through the backyard without checking if the coast was clear.
Smart.
But it was not.
Oh.
I saw someone sitting by the fire pit in the darkness. It wasn't Scott. It was a grown man. He was facing the tent, and surely he had to have seen me. I gasped and zipped the tent back up and crawled back into my sleeping bag.
Where's the brother
as
at?
if that piece of cloth was any form of protection. I stayed completely still inside my sleeping bag.
Man, this is why I told you to have a good... You might as well just camp in the front yard then if your backyard's just open for people to just walk in. I literally just said this before the video started. Don't camp in your backyard if you don't have any protection. If you got no fences, no gates, and someone can just walk into your backyard, of course it would. If that was the case, then it wouldn't be a horror story, right? Because you wouldn't even have a horror story to begin with if you had a fenced off backyard, right? Obviously, all these stories are gonna have an open gate, open backyard. I bet one of these is probably gonna have something to do with the forest, huh?
The tent was almost completely dark, just a faint gray from the moonlight coming through the fabric.
Where's the brother at?
I don't know what was going through my mind at that point.
Probably did.
But I do know that I wanted to call out Dad, just hoping that it was my dad. But I knew it wasn't. I got a look at the man, even just briefly. And if it were my dad, he'd have acknowledged me poking my head out of the tent. And that's when I heard the chair by the fire pit shift.
Oh, GG.
I was shitting bricks, hoping the man didn't get up. And if he did, that he wasn't coming towards the tent.
He's coming.
But I could see a shadow now on the other side of the tent, blocking some of the moonlight. He was right outside. Somehow, I thought if I didn't move, maybe he would think the tent was empty. Then I heard the zipper, very slowly dragging downward. It only moved a few inches. The opening was small, but it was enough. I couldn't help it. I turned my head just slightly. There's a small gap at the bottom of most tents where the zipper doesn't fully seal. I had never noticed it before that night. An eye was pressed against that gap. Just one eye, looking directly at me.
GG.
I could see the white of it in the dark. I couldn't even scream at first. Not for a few seconds at least, because I was paralyzed. Then the eye squinted a bit, as if the person was smiling a smile that I couldn't see. The zipper moved another inch, and that's when I finally screamed. I scrambled backwards, kicking out of my sleeping bag, knocking into the tent poles. I heard footsteps immediately take off through the yard. Our back porch light flipped on, which I could see through the tent fabric. My dad burst out the back door yelling. I could hear him running across the grass. By the time he reached the fire pit area, whoever it was already gone. My parents called the police, of course. I don't remember what happened after my parents talked to the cops. I know I went to my parents' room with my mom, and eventually the police did their thing, likely searching the immediate area. It was an absolute nightmare. I slept in my parents' bed that night. I was emotionally scarred for a while. Just as things might have been going back to normal, I think it was a few weeks to a month later. This part is what really hammers the nail in the coffin for this experience being something I can never forget.
What happened to your brother? You just gonna ignore? What did your brother do? Weren't you like camping with your brother? Where is he? Did he get like blamed? What was his story? What was the big brother story? He just said, "Well, he went inside." Your L brother for real, no joke. Why would you just leave your sibling like that? And now the time skips 1 month, so we don't even know what happened to the brother.
I went to Catholic school, and during lunch we'd have a short recess in the schoolyard, which was all concrete. The far end of the schoolyard was fenced off and looked towards the street. We were playing some game, maybe red light, green light or something. This
What?
part I genuinely don't remember. All I know is I had to run to the fence to be considered safe from whatever the threat in the game was. And while I was on the fence, next to some other kids mind you, a man says hey from the other side of the fence. I turn, and it's a man asking me for directions to some place I don't even remember. I said I don't know. We weren't even supposed to talk to strangers outside of the schoolyard.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Then he said, "Your name's Chris, right?"
What?
And that moment is implanted in my brain. His voice, the look on his face, and my heart dropping. I said no, lying to him. He then smiled and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And at this point, I ran towards one of the recess chaperones and pointed over at the fence, but the man was gone. One of the kids next to me told me he saw the man too. The recess ladies called the recess in short, and the school called my parents. I was sure it was that man from the backyard. I was taken home early that day. I know my parents were so sick and worried after this. It was a hellish month. We lived in such a nice area too, and to almost be chased out of the neighborhood because of this was just a nightmare. After months of me being under tight supervision from my parents, things went back to normal. I can't express enough, though, how much it still pains me in my chest thinking about how I could be dead today if that man had somehow successfully taken me.
What happened to your brother though?
And it makes me sick, wondering if he was ever successful in whatever he was trying to do with someone else.
What about your brother? Didn't even talk about what happened to the brother. Bro, your brother left you. What, that's dog. What kind of older brother leaves their little brother in the outside tent? Who does that? Alright, well, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate it. That was, story time, I guess. I guess we'll get to it. What do we want to do now?